Itch.io is a website on the internet. Now, if you're not familiar, Itch.io, itch.io, I don't know how you're supposed to actually say it. I always say Itch.io, is a indie development website for indie programs. A lot of it's video games, a ton of it's video games. But if you are in the creative sphere and you're poor, you should go to Itch.io all the time. Also, if you want video games and you're poor, or you want to see random, neat bullshit, I should have an Itch.io day. Go to Itch.io. I've gotten brush packs for pretty cheap for Krita off of there that I really like. If you are in video game development, they have a fuck ton of assets of varying qualities. But if you want to make like a, RPG Maker game and you just want to throw it together and you don't want to have to fuck with all the asset packs, you don't want to have to fuck with all the music, all that good shit, check out Itch.io. They have a lot of this stuff now. But you are probably a little too late because today, Itch.io was shut down by an AI attack from fucking Funko Pop. I'm not kidding you. Funko Pop is plastic trash in the ocean. If you're not familiar with Funko Pop, because you are blessed to not be a person with a collector in your immediate friend group, we're not. Funko Pop is a purveyor of shit. They sell garbage. Funko Pops are garbage that people buy because some people have like a mockingbird, blue jay, whatever the hell those things are that collect stuff, need to pick things up. They just want to go around and collect stuff that pleases them. Funko Pops are in the esteem of, I think, every person I have ever seen in collector spaces, the most psychotic right-wing hot glue fucking anime doll vinyl person on A will agree with the most fucking left-wing hoity-toity, I'm above the world fucking blue-haired Warhammer 40k hand painter on the left, whatever the fuck. They will agree that the worst collectibles and the worst collectible people are, for some fucking reason, Funko Pop people. Funko Pops are available wherever trash is sold. Your local FYI. EB Games, if they're around, still has them. GameStop for sure has them. Walmart will have a bunch of them for sale at the end. They are basically, Reddit, the show, the game, Reddit, Magpies. Thank you, Magpies. Magpies, crows, jackdaws. Thank you, Magpie. That's the bird I meant earlier. If you know the fucking website Reddit, right? Reddit is a website on the internet. Just keep doing it. Somebody said, you're going to do your bad Phil Hartman impression. I'm not going to sub. I'm like, suck my dick because I'm going to keep the memory alive, all right? On Reddit, you can do like a customize your own avatar, and it's the same little bobblehead with like a stick underneath it. That's all Funko Pops are. It's the same big fucking head with a little thing and then a standee. And then random pop culture bullshit will get turned into a Funko Pop. There's Funko Pop knockoffs. I can't remember what the fuck it's called. Someone can say it in the comments if you want. For like internet losers, right? It's a different, slightly different thing. But Funko Pop basically just turns IP into ocean trash. It is a major contributor, unironically, to garbage in the ocean. Funko Pops are trash. They are not. I'm not going to stop harping on this. They're garbage. They are literal trash that looks like something that tickles some part of your head. They are cheap vinyl, non-valuable collectibles, right? And most people get them for like a gift here and there, and then they will forget about them and throw them away or give them away. Eventually, these things almost all end up in the dump because if you have limited shelf space, the 11 from Stranger Things Funko Pop with the bloody nose might not be the highest priority to keep on your shelf, and you might not want to put it in your closet, so you do the Christian thing and you throw it in your fucking garbage can, and then it ends up attached to a turtle somewhere in the Atlantic with a fucking series of the old nylon 6-pack holders from the fucking 90s that don't exist anymore, from what I understand. So it is Ugly Snoo with different colors and hats. Like literally, it's that's what it is. If there's anything that you can collect, otherwise, I would respect that. If you were the person that was like, I came to your house and you showed me that you had collected 1,200 different Scrabble games, like Scrabble, the game Scrabble with the little numbers. And you're like, yeah, these are a Scrabble from every year. I would be fascinated. I would sit there and listen to you talk to me about why in the fuck your neurodivergence made you gather 1,200 boxes of Scrabble together to display on a dark shelf in a closet in your house. I would be fucking stunned. Even if you collect action figures from back in the day, you're like, yeah, dude, this is I paid $30,000 for this fucking rated, what is it, A+ from the fucking Comics Guild certified, unopened, unmarred platinum, whatever the fuck. Venture Brothers episode, that thing. I would like, well, okay, why did you spend as much as a mid-sized luxury sedan on this piece of plastic in a worn cardboard box from 1972? Like, well, because it mattered a lot to me. But if you get to a Funko Pop person and you're like, why do you have all these Funko Pops? And they always say the same thing. I just can't stop buying them. Every fucking time. It's always, I can't stop buying them, or people keep buying them for me because they think I like them because I put them on a shelf, and now every time someone comes over, they're like, oh, hey, a Funko Pop. So you're like, what? Oh, yeah. So like my boyfriend in college bought me a Severus Snape Funko Pop because I like Harry Potter and he's inconsiderate, and just found me something that was in the sale bin at Target. He left the price tag on it, but he at least knew I liked fucking Hogwarts bullshit from fucking Harry Potter. And that's the only reason I stuck with him for 3 years. And now I have this bullshit. And then someone goes over to your house and they're like, oh, they've got a Severus Snape Funko Pop. And then your next birthday comes by. And then all of a sudden you've got you got the entire extended cast of Harry Potter as people start to, and you suddenly realize that you're a Funko Pop collector, i.e., you're one of those like rocky outcroppings by one of the nastier beaches in Atlantic City that's filled with plastic bottle caps and broken chunks of glass. That's your house. That's your shelf. You have no emotional connection to these things other than the vague memory of somebody giving them to you. And it's probably the least valuable memory you have with that person unless you have rolled the dice and you're like, yeah, my last thing my grandpa did was give me this Friday the 13th part 2 fucking canvas head Jason Funko Pop with a bloody machete. Like, okay, cool. To kick it back in, I hate Funko Pops because Funko Pops represent pretty much all of the things that are the worst about the arts and consumerism. Like, it just skips past any of the value of artistic expression, literally peels out the most recognizable aspects of an IP, pastes them onto a literal pre-made shape mold thing, and then just sells it for like minimum price by the fucking boatload. And shout out to the Funko Pop creators, I guess. They're making money hand over fist, putting all that fucking vinyl out in the world, or whatever that. I don't even think it's vinyl. I don't think it's that good. It's not even vinyl. Putting whatever the fuck those are out in the world. Good on you. Whatever. You made your fucking nut. Here's where the story gets crazy. Itch.io is literally the opposite of that. It's not high quality all the time, but Itch.io has all sorts of video games. It's a place that has game jams. All of these things that are like the small little bits of what you need to make something, except for usually maybe like the workstation itself, exists on Itch.io. Including just that kind of nebulous, you can't get it anywhere else idea of community, which I see and I don't participate in, but I see with Itch.io creators, you know what I mean? These people participate in game jams, a lot of them know each other, and there's an idea that you can reach out into Itch.io and find a way to the next stage of whatever you're trying to make. Usually something like a video game, but sometimes just crafting stuff, working in Blender, trying to do this, that, the other thing. All sorts of stuff. Itch.io is the opposite of Funko Pop. And Funko Pop, using the power of AI, has shut down Itch.io. We go to Itch.io's motherfucking Twitter right now. Itch.io, I kid you not, Itch.io has been taken down by @OriginalFunko because they use some trash AI-powered brand protection software called @BrandShieldTD that created some bogus phishing report to our registrar, I Want My Name, who ignored our response and just disabled the domain. Let me just double check real quick. Itch.io. Okay, they're back up now, thank God. I think. I don't know if it's a historic backup or all the way back up. But this is what itch.io looks like. Itch.io. I'll say that a few more times. It's this. Browse games, game jams, upload game. You can upload stuff. It's kind of like Steam with no quality control. A lot of the things are free. Some of them are just web games. They're all over the place. I don't want to scroll down too much because some of they put some pretty seriously adult content on there too. But that's basically the issue, right? Thank God they're back up. But fucking Funko Pop obliterated itch.io for even a moment with this bullshit. I guess it's December 9th. That's, today, 2/11. Keep going. I hope you guys are all having a nice Sunday evening. Also, for transparency, we did take the disputed page down as soon as we got the notice because it's not worth fighting stuff like that. Regardless, our registrar's automated system likely kicked to disable the domain since no one read our confirmation of renewal. And this is just a thing that's going to happen more and more often, right? I guess this is Brand Shield at Brand. We detect online threats. We take them down. Oh, okay, yeah. Watch out for the fucking New York fucking CEO slayer. By utilizing proprietary AI and big data-based technology, Brand Shield monitors, detects, and removes online threats facing companies. Of course, they're from fucking... It's an Israeli tech company. Ramat Sharon, Israel. Fuck, God damn it. Treating Israel like the fucking Red Bank. Or the West Bank. Or itch.io like the West Bank. We want to address recent reports surrounding a website takedown. No one can reply but us. Brand Shield serves as a trusted partner to many brands. Our AI-driven platform detects potential threats and provides analysis, and in this case, an abuse was identified from an itch.io subdomain. Did they actually do the right? Okay. We identified and reported the infringement and requested a takedown of the URL in question, not of the entire itch.io domain. The temporary takedown of the website was a decision made by the service providers, not Brand Shield. Brand Shield remains committed to supporting our clients by identifying potential digital threats and infringements. We encourage platforms to implement stronger self-regulation systems that prevent such issues from escalating. I mean, I would have to see what was the announcement? But that's the issue with these things, is this AI shit. Let me tell you how this works. I'll tell you how it works. Okay, so I've talked about generative AI a billion times, okay? And I'm now giving myself a fucking correspondence course in doctorate level large language model analysis and virtual enhancement machines and data banks and latent space and the whole fucking king caboodle. Adversarial networks are what you are mostly going to run across, and they're not necessarily always bad, but they are a lazy person's way to use AI. It is the version of AI that is probably going to be the one that you run into the most, is an adversarial network or something that's based on adversarial type network. That's what the AI powered you're going to be running into is. Adversarial is basically just comparison AI. So without getting into the fucking details, right? If you train AI and stuff, train it up, make it look at whatever you're trying to get it to understand, whatever type of program it is, it will internalize data about that and create essentially what is a latent space idea. Latent space is just a way of holding information where it's not the original information packet. So you wouldn't have Shakespeare. You would have Gaussian idea, a diffused idea of what Shakespeare should be, statistically speaking, with data from that arranged next to it. In this case, maybe like micro bytes of words and stuff. So what the adversarial network does is double check. It sounds more aggressive than it is, but what it does is it double checks what it's experiencing against the latent idea of what that thing should actually be. There's a lot of issues with that. So what they've done is programmed in an understanding essentially of the most critical components or the most basic routine components of an issue. And this thing uses stimulus, which it diffuses, breaks down, and rebuilds and says, is this stimulus the same as my preset latent ideas, so to say, my latent memory of what it should be? this is where you get these false positives from. These adversarial networks are how they originally tried to train self-training AI, right? Unsupervised, what they call unsupervised. It doesn't really work. Ultimately, in the long run, there's no unsupervised AI, not really. But what these adversarial networks do basically is pass-fail information that comes in, right? Pass-fail with a certain degree of certainty. So with this is why AI detection software is an adversarial AI network. Right? It's pre-programmed, so network, don't think of it as being connected to the internet. It's just a network of ideas, a literal series of nets that the program goes back up and down through. It looks at the AI image, right? And says, AI images that I have been trained on have this latent subset of principles that makes it an AI image according to the training data and the modulation that I've received to correct my understanding of what this should be. So I'm going to hit this with whatever I use to diffuse the information that's inside of it, and then try to rebuild it. And then when I take in that data and put it against my understanding of what the data should be, I'll return a level of certainty of whether it is or isn't, and maybe even just give it a pass-fail. So the AI-driven network detectors that are in these things, right, that are going to be in this subsystem of bullshit, right, are probably the same open source AI trainable models that anybody can download. I can't remember if it's Source AI or what it is, but it's basically like free, right? And you can do almost all of the specific types of things with it. It just starts turning into something once you use it in a certain direction and requires certain types of stimulus and additional programming in order to do this, that, or the other. If it's a diffusion network, it can always use diffusion. If it's a GAN, it can always use GAN. They can't necessarily cross between each other the way that you would want them to. If you do, I don't know, but like they have limitations, they have abilities. I'll leave it at that. What this is going to do is I don't know how they get the training data, but basically they say these are fucking violations of violations of copyright. Okay. So you're just going to use the same sort of data crawl without doing intake, constantly searching the internet, run a search. So there's a sub program, run an internet search constantly for these terms, right? Whenever you give me a result for these terms, run the adversarial network on the content in there. So I want you to detect any IP flags, trademark, name, images, this, that, and the other. If you turn back, if they don't have any oversight, which you absolutely need for all current adversarial networks, absolutely cannot work unsupervised. All of them cannot. None of them can work unsupervised except for subtasks within the fucking models themselves. So like it can be unsupervised, so to say, while it's learning to some degree. It can be unsupervised while it's doing its job as like in a GAN, a generative adversarial model, but it can't be unsupervised and actually turn in correct results outside of that because it does not learn. We don't have unsupervised, especially unsupervised adversarial networks. We just do not have them. Semi-supervised or fully supervised, i.e. most or all results have to be observed by a human end user in order to determine that they're correct. Some people have stack adversarials. So what you do is you say, well, my adversarial is more correct than the average adversarial because my adversarial has been trained on correct adversarials. So it knows when the adversarial is turning in correct work. And so you have a series of just redundant stacks of like three guys that agree with each other that are actually just robots. Like, hey, buddy, do you think that this is a can? I don't know, man. It almost sort of looks like a can. It's the same shape, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm going to say this is not a can. Hey, buddy, does this look like a can to you? Well, I've looked at cans before, and I've got to say, I don't think that this is necessarily a can, but I've seen what you say before, and you seem like you're normally right. So I'm going to say you're correct. Hey, buddy, do you think this looks like a can? Do you think he's correct? Hey, buddy, let me just look at this real quick. Well, that does look like a can. I will say that this actually is a can, and you don't seem like you're correct, and you don't seem like you're correct, but I've seen you be correct before, so I'm judging on you being correct. Maybe he's not correct, so I think that this is a can. Why is it a can? Well, it's a can because it is. Like, that is how like a stack adversarial will work. It'll fucking pop back all of this information. There's side processing that can be set up crazy ways. But that's kind of how this little thing is set up. I'm explaining really in-depth algorithmic work with as simple of terms as possible. I don't think you guys want me to start fucking talking about like the depth of latent space. I don't even fucking deeply understand it all. But a lot of the things where I'm like speculating, I'm just right. A lot of these networks are synaptic. I can't even say that, but basically they all operate on a guesswork of sub-infinite potential, right? And like how close to the sub-infinite potential you could possibly go before you get correct answers and stuff. And so should we go in that direction? But you never know. It's a whole different thing. Hold on, I forgot I was catching up. Massive amount of cheap labor from India, Asia, Africa has been spent correcting ChatGPT, DALL-E, etc. Yeah, I can get into that more, but I can actually get to that in a second. Basically, what the issue is, and this is the problem, and this is the thing that you can call out and how to call it out. No AI networks can be unsupervised right now to learn, really. Some of them can be semi-unsupervised. There are no unsupervised networks, i.e. the network will understand and achieve approximate to human levels of quality control and output with no interaction with a human at all. Some of them are semi. And semi is subjective because it's anything between none and constant. Almost all of them require constant supervision, i.e. every result has to be observed. If you think about this, all of the diffusion models that you see are 100% supervised. They might say that there's a lack of supervision in the training internally, but if you're interacting with the stable diffusion and you're saying, hey, stable diffusion, this fucking porno that you just put out is A-okay, and this one's mid, and that one's fucking great, and this one's terrible. You have now supervised the AI, and it is going to learn from you because you're giving it adjustments, right? You're part of the adversarial network. You are the supervisor in the adversarial network. You're actually teaching it. All the way down the line, particularly with the diffusion models, is human input and supervised learning. The diffusion networks are pretty fucking notorious for it. And this is the labor issue because we find out, and this is what I said, like that can't be possible. You cannot train AI on everything. You can't train it on every image. It's impossible. It won't turn up anything. You have to have an expectation for a diffusion model. You have to pre-train it in order to make it accomplish something. So if this is the I can't say the word right. It's like synaptic. It almost looks like I'm probably not even starting it right, but basically think of it like, and I read the like subsection of the paper and I'm like, oh, it's the fucking Shakespeare monkeys. Okay. So Shakespeare monkeys, right? You put a bunch of monkeys in a room with typewriters. Eventually they put out Shakespeare, right? It's theoretically possible. That is what diffusion models are. Literally, that's what it is. That's what the fucking attempt is. That's what it is. It started with degaussing, right? Degaussing, denoising. The same thing, your TV, bump, and then your TV degausses. It starts going from to like that. That is turning static noise radio signal into images, right? So what the original issue for these was you have an image. Can I turn this into noise and then turn it back from noise without additional external stimuli by training it to understand where the latent understanding of where these issues are. So I give you 500 pictures of a cat. You develop a latent understanding of what constitutes, statistically speaking, a cat. Not the shape of it, nothing other than like when I generate cats, what comes up when I have a cat? And then you come up with the cat, which has little hallucinations in it too, because as it reconstructs from latent space and tags what you want to see in a cat, using also what it learns in the latent space from tags, it puts together something that maybe is there, maybe is not. GANs do that, sort of. The diffusion models do that like for real. And they have a bank of a library of images that are like kilobyte, not even a kilobyte. I think they're like 1 bit to 2 bits big, which is nuts. But the way that the information is stored, it's never going to get turned back into an entire picture again. It's just a latent mathematical understanding of the construction of the internals of the image. The reason why it can be that small is because of human training. The human beings that are trawling the internet AI will go, hey, adversarial network will say, hey, I have detected based on my training all of these pictures. Can you tell me, are all of these pictures of a bus or of a cat or of the color yellow? In all the way down. That's like the old version that would take everything, right? And that's the one that you could poison by fucking with reCAPTCHA and shit like that. Now, they have people that are independently saying these tags are correct and taking out and putting in kit tags and literally forming the thing into a output machine based on human sense data. So this is why you can't, they have to steal art. They have to steal art in order to do this, because you literally are never, that's the sub, right? The syntactic, right? You're training monkeys to do Shakespeare, but you're actually going to affect it. Statistically, there's a possibility that if you put the tags in untrained, when the thing denoises the noise, right? There's raw static, denoises an idea from latent space, that you're going to come up with a large language model of Shakespeare or a picture of an apple, right? Think of it as Shakespeare, okay? So at the start, it's n fucking thing sub infinity, right? And these are just psychotic, like literally infinite probability. So you want to drag it down into the realm of what could eliminate the most amount of additional noise. So put in Shakespeare. So you just train it on all of Shakespeare, okay? So now you've reduced it from infinite to maybe like 1 in a billion, which is a lot lower than infinite. So 1 in a billion times you'll actually generate Shakespeare. Now you change your adversarial to what is Shakespeare? Well, Shakespeare is if it feels like Shakespeare, and we minimize the amount of typos. So are we saying it's going to be this? Are we saying that? No. It just has to be vaguely Shakespeare, enough that we can kind of turn it with a little bit of elbow grease into people accepting it. So as you decrease the expectations and the possibilities of what can be combined and what is put into the latent space, you have a higher likelihood in these sub-probable like stacks going down to achieve a degauss that is going to be the thing that you want to see, a diffusion that re-solidifies, that comes back from an expansive space into a high pressure space and gets put on the page that actually resembles the thing that you want. The negative results, right? And you can do this a bunch of times. That's the cool thing about it, right? Not to break my own thing. I was actually very impressed by this for different reasons. I just wish they didn't use it for what they use it for. As you make one, right? This is one of the things, like the energy. Each individual image gets broken down in a diffusion thing. It gets seen, it gets turned into noise, and then it gets broken down and then re-put. Whap, whap, like that. And if it makes it back and it turns it back into almost exactly the same thing, then it can be said to have an understanding of that. That's one act of training. That reversed is how it makes stuff, right? So instead of the training, it takes the tags and then it tries to take the tags and turn that into noise made out of latent space representations of what's in the tags, and then tries to denoise that into something that approximates what the end user wants to see. On top of that, usually I think most of these, general adversarial is simple, right? Compared to the rest of these, but the adversarial aspect of it is still built into most of these things. There's an adversarial chunk. So it generates 500, 2,000, whatever the fuck, a large amount of these. Again, pop, 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 that quick, because it's just throwing math out, right? And then once the math is done and like the math seems correct to the adversarial, it'll say, okay, that. Have you guys ever seen the thing where it sorts the chicken eggs? Like that? So good, 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 possible. Then those get mathematically turned into an image. The images get adversaried again, and then you get a minimum amount of like 4 to 5 things that should be correct. You are also a part of the additional adversarial system as a supervisor, so you're the supervision system. You decide what goes and what doesn't go when it gets to you, and then those tags go deeper into the system, and the system readjusts what can and can't be considered successful or accurate when these are made. With the Shakespeare thing, just imagine the same deal, but the monkeys type at near the speed of light, okay? And they just have to get within an approximation of Shakespeare. So we've increased the overall possible Shakespeares. Instead of just one idea, like we have Romeo and Juliet, we now have just an idea of Shakespeare, which is this massive, massive thing, but also a really, really fundamentally tiny. It's the interesting thing about finite mathematics. So you have a finite amount of information, you have a finite amount of possible outcomes, really, or you have a finite amount of information and a finite amount of probability, but like an infinite amount of reconstructing inside of that infinite. So it's like a sub-infinite in an infinite, right? I'm kind of flubbing this. If you're fucking, damn apples, fucking A Beautiful Mind, like freaking out about this. Sorry, I'm trying to get it like as even keeled as I can. But basically, what you do is you create a situation where you maximize the amount of possible successes and also the amount of monkeys. And so when you can change those two things, the likelihood of you getting in the ballpark and just someone going, all right, is very, very, very high comparative to just monkeys typing and getting something done one time correctly. That's the point of these. That's why also they use so much fucking energy, is they have to do all of this stuff again and 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 again. What does this mean for you, the consumer? Adversarial networks, like I was saying, are just a recipe for laziness. It is the replacement for discernment, is really what it is. Everything that's at a plant, okay, not okay. That sort of thing, when people would go through, double check stuff, the job that is here that they did would be something that someone does through like Google Alerts, right? Or some sort of web trawling program. Hey, notify me anytime these things are there, and then I'm going to go in and I'm going to do the appropriate response. If you ever work in newspapers and you talk about major IPs and fuck something up, Spider-Man without the hyphen, you say dumpster in a story and you mean just a gigantic external trash can and not the dumpster company. If you mean tissue, facial tissue, but you say Kleenex instead, the brand will call you or fucking text you and just say, hey, I want you to know I'm a lawyer from here. I just want to let you know that you incorrectly invoked our trademark. You incorrectly invoked our copyright or this or that when you said this thing this way. That's a whole job substack. But you do have to have serious understanding of like the law and stuff. What they've done here is trained an adversarial network to detect IP violations, right? And then automatically send some sort of digital cease and desist, DMCA claim, whatever. Whatever the claim was, it hit fucking Itch.io's service provider hard enough that they knee-jerk shut the site down, which is not good. Because if there were people that were making purchases on a site where you can choose how much you want to pay in certain cases, they might have lost money. If this is a major site or a bank or something like that, and this adversarial network hit that hard and shut it down, then there might be serious implications for that going down the road. Obviously, Brand Shield in this case, sort of semi-correctly, I'd have to give it to them a little bit. They said that, well, we just sent a basic cease and desist. It was on fucking, what is this called? I Want My Name. The domain provider, I Want My Name. It was on them for overreacting. Now, it takes two to tango. And I think in this case, more than likely what might have been happening is there's just another fucking adversarial network. So somewhere, however the DMCA claims or whatever claim was pressed, wherever those are processed inside these systems, it might even be If you've never worked for a major corporation or even just been really organized yourself, you can set up Gmail inboxes to basically turn anything that comes into your inbox that has certain stuff in it into spreadsheet material, right? Would not be hard whatsoever to take any Google product and attach an adversarial network to it to detect certain stuff, and then have an input, response, output, basic, bog standard, too simplistic of a program. It's kind of one of those things where you see somebody that's like me when I started trying to do some sort of programming, and you have that moment where you turn it on and you don't realize that it just means infinite, and it just, CPU on fire, GPU maxed out, 5 billion VRAM, that kind of thing. So if they've just attached a bootstrap in-out, if this happens program, fucking 2 inches of code onto this stuff and said like, hey, this is our system that fixes this, right? It's really very, very interesting that AI technology does most of the work. Yeah, you have an adversarial network in there that's giving pass fails probably, or probability pass fails. And if you hit a certain level, right? Like, okay, if it's 86 or higher, if it's 50 or higher, we're going to send a notice, or if it has any of these specific aspects, automatically send a notice, automatically send this kind. Maybe even has it write it up. If it has a GPT the fucking notice into existence, who the hell knows? But there might be, on the other side, a secondary adversarial network on the domain provider side that is checking these emails that come in. And then it's saying, okay, well, if I get a DMCA claim, I'm going to do whatever's best for the company. And if you haven't preset it, or you don't even understand how to preset something like this, because you're just it's not, it can do a lot of stuff. These algorithms are pretty fucking like crazy. They can do a lot of interesting things, and there's a lot of automation that can come from them. The problem is the automation is fucking automation, right? So like, you don't get out of your car while it's in fucking drive. You shouldn't turn on a tractor and just let it go into the cornfield. Don't turn on your cruise control and then take a nap in the back of the RV. Same sort of thing. So this thing is on auto going, and it might just be clipping because it's all connected into their stuff. Okay, pass, fail, pass, fail, pass, fail. This seems like a legitimate DMCA. It's from a known provider or something like that. It's got the correct certificate. Boom. Shut off the entire site. Because it's better that the company doesn't care. The company's there for money. So if your domain is paid for, but they're worried that it's going to cause them some sort of like issue, they might just fucking crack it. I think stuff like this is going to become pretty fucking common going into the future. I think it's going to become irritatingly common. It's basically what we exist through day to day on YouTube. The entire fucking, like, I have no idea what I can and can't say. I don't know how to like set this stuff up. I don't know how to put these keywords in here or like convince the system that I'm above board. So like when you do YouTube, I'm pretty sure just does AI double checks. Bump, bump, right? Learning machine. It checks for the presence of certain things. What does a whole big check, goes, scrubs your stuff, diffuses that data into a latent space, however the hell it does it in its specific model type. And then if that data can, once reconstructed, resemble however they have the information set up, if it resembles a pass or a fail, it sends the pass or the fail on. And then you have to have somebody come in and supervise the model afterward, almost always to have a human come by and double check your shit. I think this is going to be extremely common. It already is for a lot of people. I think it's going to be one of the things that probably drives people the fucking craziest as the AI boom, the adversarial network boom pops off. AI detection software is adversarial network software. There's other variations of it. It's a bigger field than these are the fundamental principles behind a lot of the things. Am I skipping for somebody? I have 0 dropped frames, so if I'm skipping, it's on YouTube side. I'm getting hit by the adversarial network. But basically, I see these systems interacting with each other past people, causing serious issues if they're left unsupervised. And if you are a person that is going to be talking about politicization of this tech, like, hey, I want laws passed. I don't think there's going to be a lot to win on the IP front that are fights that your average fucking, $50 commission guy on fucking Twitter are going to win. I think a lot of consumers are going to be really, really focused on this because it's going to take robocalling to an entire new fucking world, first and foremost. As far as consumer protection goes, this shit has got to get taken out. But the ability for one system to talk to another system past all human interaction and then make business decisions on behalf of both systems and maybe even the people involved is pretty bonkers, because it's one of those things like AI driving cars. You know, the car decides where to go. If it decides to make a major business decision, who's the blame on, right? Like if it shuts down your account because some weird adversarial network decides that the FBI is correct and some guy that sort of looks like you is a terror suspect, and then he needs his accounts frozen and he can't fly out of the country, and then that detection algorithm that's unsupervised is connected to these banking algorithms that are unsupervised, will they just like lock hands, handshake, and then just like lock you out of your account? And then how do you get it back? How do you know you're ever going to be able to get to somebody? Because the supervision is necessary. You have to have the human. This is crazy because it's going to make human interaction at the consumer level like insanely valuable, like bonkers, because supervision's what makes these things go on. You need supervision on the diffusion models to train them. That's why they have people in low income countries basically doing like telecenter stuff, but for saying yes, no, pass, fail, good, bad, tags, okay, on these diffusion items that are being trained in and put into latent space, in the libraries and whatnot. The people that are going to be able to fix issues with miscommunicating AI, it's just going to be some guy. It's going to be your average call center employee for all the shit that I've talked about that will be able to say like, oh, okay, well, what the hell here? You know, the fuck. But if these things get authority that's higher than the lowest level of human authority to operate, they might cause instantaneous life destruction at the drop of a hat. Obviously, the thing with Itch.io is like, I wouldn't even say it's an edge case. It's just the first one I've heard of something that I give a fuck about. But just imagine if these things start getting attached to actual critical issues, your healthcare, your bank account, your legal status in the court system. You know what I mean? Like if we start getting bad handshakes between some police investigative system and the courtroom records, and you accidentally get your like record corrected to you were guilty of a fucking manslaughter conviction or something. If there's no one there to fix that, no supervisory individual, or the AI is treated as operating at a higher level than the individuals that are immediately under it, and there's a bureaucratic moment that needs to happen to change it that takes time, like you could have your life completely derailed by one of these at quite literally just sublight speed, like the processing speed of half of most VRAM that's available on your fucking day-to-day graphics card. The NYPD said they were going to use AI to try to reconstruct the face of the CIA CEO killer. Some innocent dude is going to get put in jail and have his life ruined because of this shit tech. Yeah, that's like one of the issues, right? Is the people don't understand the limitations of the AI. The limitations are intentionally scrubbed over by AI fanboys who just a lot of times don't know how it works either and want to just score points and feel like a tech guy. The tech people can't fucking explain it. The tech people who are selling it don't want to. And so there's extreme limitations with adversarial networks. Extreme, profound limitations. And supervision is absolutely necessary with a lot of these things. And especially, I think this is the second false positive of one of these type deals I've heard. There was another one where somebody got their own song copyright claimed by an AI copyright claimer on a channel that makes AI music and is selling it. They just ripped his song off. It sounds exactly like his song, and then they fucking DMCA'd him from an upload that came after the fact. You know what I'm saying? So like this stuff is happening and it's going to accelerate. Understand that it's more than just if you're watching and your little fucking you you have that kind of neurodivergence where like Elon Musk feels like he speaks to you, but you're not quite at the level of passing high school, thinking your way through things. Understand that these fucking short failings will affect you too if they're not addressed. This is just very, very serious stuff that needs to get fixed. It really just does. There needs to be almost an excessive amount, I think, compared to what's being provided of supervisory roles when it comes to AI. And it's not hard. It's just literally you're like a fucking security guard level of look, click, double check, yeah. Look, click, double check, yeah. But I think really what it's going to be more than likely is people try to not have to pay people is just adversarials all the way down. And just a series of like, hey, buddy, is this a can? I don't know. Is this a can? Well, I don't trust you 100%. So I'm going to say it's probably not a can, but I got a guy that's going to double check. Hey, man, is this a can? And is he correct? Am I correct? Yeah, I think you might be correct, but he's not been correct either. So I'm going to double check this and pass it back to the next guy. And just all the way back the fuck down. And that's what redundancy and double checking is going to appear to be as we move into whatever the fuck the future entails for us. I think that's going to be the case. I would not be surprised to see a lot of false positives turning up for AI identifications of suspects, considering how bad AI is with faces. It can make accurate ones, but it thinks a lot of people look the same and it can't see black people. Most adversarial networks, they're trained on data, right? So if a data, and they are limited, that sub infinite, right? That's a finite. It's a finite data set. So it's not infinite possibilities. The AI cannot understand or define anything that's doesn't exist within the latent space inside of it, right? And if it does, it's within that sub-infinite subsection of one in an infinite amount of possibilities. Like it just did it right somehow. Magic, literal black box shit. So if an adversarial network isn't trained on white people, it'll only detect black people. Or non-white people, right? Like we're talking about the criminal justice system. If you have one where you're like, I want to detect fucking criminals in an area, and then you only train it up on black folks, it's not going to see white people. And it's not going to see maybe most Latino people. It's not going to see Asian people. It's going to see black people. It's going to be a black people detector because you trained it on black people. If you have a thing that's like, hey, am I attractive AI? But you've only trained it on like blue-eyed or green-eyed white models from Europe that have a specific bone structure, like real Scandinavian, it's not going to tell you if you're hot. It's just going to say whether or not the face you put in agrees with your version of hotness. So every single system, and I confirmed this by double, triple, quadruple checking, basically. This is what I was most interested in. Not only is every single system subject to bias is inherently built into the system by whoever works on the training data. So the training data is selected, and all of the training data has to be pre-selected. It has to be. Sometimes some of the older ones, they're made out of more like wiki commons and all that sort of shit. As they get deeper into it, the valuable returns from the diffusion systems come from pre-training them on pre-selected data so that the data is relevant and accurate to what they're trying to talk about. But the data is limited. It's a sub-infinite system, so a finite system, sub-infinite, finite. It's a finite system, so whatever is inside that finite system is the only defining characteristics that it can recognize because that's the only thing that's been put into its data set. And it can't learn new stuff without engaging in the data set, right? Or having it scanned in. So if you are in America, you're going to have an American bias literally on your training data because if the fucking person that's training it and selecting for the data can't see it, then the machine extra can't see it. Every human error when it comes to developing these libraries is like expanded upon by series of orders of magnitudes inside the machine. Because not only is the machine sub-infinite, the results get smaller and smaller and smaller as possibility decreases in the latent space because of the devaluing of possible interconnections between the haze of where these latent properties fall, where this this bit of information shows up in the field. So I was right about a bunch of that stuff. was surprised. It just seemed like it was the way that it would work out. But I was like, oh, I can't believe you guys just are all admitting this. And they're like, not even raw admitting it. Like, we're surprised people aren't talking about it more. A bunch of the like open source AI developers and a lot of the guys that were like major players in the 2014 to 2016 era, where a lot of the major papers on this were published. People that worked at Google, pre-Alphabet Google, and at various institutes worldwide. Their biggest concerns were the natural inclusion of bias in training and in pre-training and in post-training, and the intentional input of bias into these systems, because it exists in every sort of different type of AI, just literally how they're made. The fundamental programs that are the precursor programs have that built in. That's the real reason AI can't do art. It doesn't have taste. It can't discern. Like it has to have not just the end user tell it what's good. It also has to have the people tell it, and it can't spontaneously develop taste on its own without external stimuli. That would be the actual like Turing moment. That would be the Turing test. It becomes semi-indiscernible from human at that point, because now we've transitioned into it deciding what it prefers and what it would like to give you in a way that makes sense to it, and that it is like finds preferential, but also like can acquiesce to your desires. That mix, literally the generative adversarial nature of working with a boss. This is what I can do, and this is what I would like to do, and I understand what you need me to do, and I'm going to find the compromise there. The machines can't compromise. They can't decide. They can't like or credit. You know what I mean? They don't improvise. There's no jazz. So that's what's needed to get to the Turing test moment. But that's also going to be the issue that comes up, is they are going to return fewer and fewer and more successful results. This is also going to happen in issues like this, and security issues and identification issues, and that might cause a serious problem down the line if these things aren't supervised extensively. And it might have to be to the point where there's some sort of legal repercussion for allowing an unsupervised AI to make decisions for you, the same way that negligently letting your car go down the fucking highway or just turning your lawnmower on and letting it rip roar down the road. It's the same thing, ultimately. But that's my point. Sorry, we got into the weeds off that, but I heard about this Ichio thing, I think last night, and I stayed up for like an hour and a half just doing a fucking insane amount of research into this. And I'm still behind the curve. I mean, I'm not a fucking MIT professor or you know, I don't have my doctoral thesis in computer engineering with large language models and the whole shebang, but it is what it is. This is one of the reasons I would like to see you debate pro AI types. I don't think they would do it if they knew you weren't stupid about the topic, though. It's not intelligence, it's just number crunching. You cannot interpret anything. No. Transvestigating with AI. That's fucking already happening, I'm pretty sure. I would be shocked to find there's not a fuck, because you can train the data. That's the point. You could put in 100 pictures of like ugly trans women, right, into a thing, and then it will diffuse it. It'll turn back to gauche, the whole fucking deal, and then it will have a data set where that is the detection. So it'll get adversarial with every picture and say not trans, yes trans, not trans, yes trans. Which you could see if you programmed it with like Semitic features, right? If you turned it into like, okay, so what I did is I put the fucking Facebook photos of every single person with an Israeli flag into a general adversarial network, or into an adversarial network, and trained it, it will create a latent idea of what that kind of person looks like. Female, male, that, and the other, especially if you fucking actively work with inside the tags, or you have some sort of crawler that uses an additional adversarial thing to pull info off the page and generate tags for each individual image. You can do that and then build a database that would basically let you fucking detect Jews I'm not even fucking kidding. There's not a lot of limitations on these things, and almost all of them can be bypassed because a lot of the source code and stuff isn't extraordinarily complex. It's not something like a video game where you have this huge data file. These things are like 5 gigs, maybe 10 or 15, depending on if they come with an extremely robust library. You know, it's just billions of fucking latent images that are only a byte big, that kind of thing. So this is just an issue, right? If there is an excess amount of faith put into these detection algorithms and the results that they put out because of people overhyping them, we might get to a point where AI results are overly trusted and instead of the supervised results, and you could have some pretty fucking crazy results from that, I think. I'm going to end that conversation there. We're in the weeds. I know this is dry. Dry as fuck. You guys thought I was going to go crazy. But yeah, AI networks are fucking cuckoo bananas. Very interesting technology. I guess I'll amend to a degree my former statements on AI. Generative AI is unethical for every reason I've said, and now also a slew of additional reasons. Adversarial networks are very good for certain results and should probably be utilized more if they are well trained and if some sort of human certification process could be created to sign off on their use for things like a literal, like a gold standard for adversarial AI network detection in certain respects. Like this is an AI network that can like detect the fuck out of that would be A-okay.
Hope you enjoyed your time on the Westside.